The Israel-Iran conflict is heating up. U.S. involvement seems imminent. Trump dips out of the G7 early, presumably to plan Iran's strategy. Both U.S. and Israel claim Israel has total air superiority over Iran at this point. Iran promises a surprise tonight that will be remembered for centuries. The exiled Shah of Iran addresses the Iranian people directly, and the FBI and IRS are promising to track down whoever is funding the LA riots. Drew, I would make a wisecrack right about now, but this is getting pretty crazy. I stopped myself from saying in the intro that the Israel-Iran mashup is going nuclear, but I couldn't stop myself from saying it now. So there we have it. But this is unnerving to say the least.
So to level set, it started over the weekend.
It started a long time before that, Drew.
I don't even know where like the start was, because I'm gonna be honest, I seen Israel fire first and then I kind of jumped off. I'm just amazed how in real time we're seeing the entire world turn on Israel. And I think that with October 7th, the Hamas conflict, we can understand that, we can rationalize that, we can get back to it. But now to start another war with Iran because of nuclear weapons that Tulsi Gabbard said we don't have, it's giving me weapons of mass destruction 2.0. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But first, so you hit me with a curveball there. We're watching the whole world turn against Israel in real time. That feels like that happened before. Mm-hmm. So over the last few months, longer, it's really watching the rise of anti-Semitism again has been really terrifying. It's just such a crazy loop in history. But yes, I think that Israel way overplayed their hand in Gaza. They had completely lost the support of even some of their most diehard people. Mm-hmm. But them going after Iran does not surprise me. The one thing I will say that I'm impressed, I don't know if that's the right word, but even though they have completely lost the backing of the international community, I guess apparently other than the US, like we'll get to that obviously in a second, but all of the popular support draining out of Israel for what they were doing in Gaza, clearly ethnic cleansing from my read, possibly spilling over into even more sinister territory. But despite all of that, continuing to push into Iran to finish the sort of three-pronged job, as far as I can tell. So dealing with everything that was going on in Gaza with Hamas, dealing with the people in the north. I cannot believe I'm blanking on their name. Hezbollah, thank you. Dealing with Hezbollah in the north, and then going after Iran, the head of the octopus, as they call it. And I saw an interview with Bennett, the former prime minister of Israel, I believe, who was prime minister right before Netanyahu, but somebody will need to fact check me on that. And he was like, listen, I've been a huge critic of Netanyahu, think he's terrible. But on this, all Israelis are behind him in terms of going after the head of the octopus. And I think he was the one that coined that phrase, that like all of this terror that's happening to Israel across the Middle East is all coming from Iran. And that while there will be countries that will condemn Israel for going after Iran, secretly, they're all going to be saying thank you because nobody wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. And I mean, look, that'll play out in the fullness of time. But I will say, other than a couple like strongly worded letters, like nobody in the Middle East is squawking. It's my understanding that Syria is even allowing Israel to use their airspace in order to get to Iran. So this feels like one where, despite how grotesque Israel is looking as they continue to pummel Gaza, people feel differently now that they're going after Iran. Like the tone shift has been dramatic. And so that's interesting. And I don't know if it's just the oppressor-oppressed thing was so clear in when Israel was going after Gaza that it just looked grotesque. And now people don't run the same moral calculus when they're going after Iran. If people believe that there really are Iranian nuclear weapons, that's going to be fascinating to parse as we go deeper into this. But the Trump camp now splitting over Trump's embrace of this is fascinating.
And that's where I was going to go next. To be clear, we will be critical of Israel in this video, but I do want to separate that from anti-Semitism. That's no excuse to do any hate violence to Jewish people, anything like that. But we can still criticize the government just like we criticize Trump and Biden and all those things like that. To me, it seems that what Israel is fighting in this specific instance, stopping Iran from becoming a nuclear power, trying to destabilize the nuclear program, and to stop the head of the octopus, because Iran seems to kind of be this hub for other terrorist organizations. I understand on paper why they're going to do it, but I'm also being skeptical of what Israel is telling me the reasons because of what we just seen in Gaza and Palestine and things like that. So to the people that are looking at it just from a scoreboard perspective, Israel's not in the same restrictions that Iranians have due to the sanctions and things like that, so that we don't even have an accurate report of what the Israeli nuclear program looks like versus we know exactly how much centrifuge they have, how enriched it is to a percent on the Iran side. Is there a little bit of hypocrisy that Israel, who has been acting like a war criminal in Gaza, has kind of this free reign to bully other people about their nuclear programs, even though they might be doing the same thing in their own country?
It's a really interesting question. And I promise, dear listeners, that we didn't talk about this beforehand. But as I was doing research on this, the one thing that you just step back and look at and go, okay, I've said many times, and it's a very famous quote, the strong will do as they will and the weak will suffer as they must. And you just take that sideways glance back at us for a second, you realize, like we're the strong who will do as they will. And admittedly, and this is a level of bias that is so pervasive in my mind that I would have a very hard time stepping outside of it. Democracy, though wildly imperfect ours is, still feels like the only government I would want to live under. And listen, you need do nothing more than watch the deep dives that I write to see that I have deep and fundamental problems with the way that I think our government steals from us. But to make the point very clear, democracy to me is the right answer. The West is the right answer. I think that it has the moral high ground. It does not have moral perfection. Let me be very clear, but we have the moral high ground. So I'm glad that we are the most powerful, but at the same time, to your point, when you are the most powerful, there aren't checks and balances on you that there are on other people. And it is not lost on me that America is the only country to actually drop a nuclear weapon, make that two. So I cling to things like, well, we could have put the world under our thumb after World War II, and we were the only ones that had a nuclear weapon, and we didn't. And so that makes me feel very good. The fact that we helped rebuild people that had been our staunch enemies, and that makes me feel tremendously good. Right. So I feel like we've done things to earn some of that moral high ground. But again, it's not lost on me that we don't have certain checks and balances on us that we apply on everybody else. And so Israel is one of our closest allies. Obviously, the fact that everyone just assumes they have nuclear weapons, but they've never declared that they have nuclear weapons is like, well, that does feel a little bit special. But at the same time, I look at the outcome of the Israeli government, and I look at the outcome of the Iranian government. I would say the Palestinian government as well, but people are obviously going to throw flags on that play. But what are you going to say about Iran? So, I mean, I know they're going to say that the U.S. flipped the government, which is not untrue, sort of. But nonetheless, the Iranian government overthrew the dictator, essentially, that America had put in place, the Shah of Iran, but with a theocracy. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't watching with bated breath to see how these ideologies perform. Like, much like the US versus the USSR was not just a Cold War of ideologies, it was a Cold War where the economies were going to play out. Like, how does this ideology manifest as a tangible economic engine? And so now we're going to see the same thing. Like, Iran isn't Palestine, man. They're 91 million people. They've got fucking oil for days. And so it'll be interesting to see if said theocracy stands up tall, or if it's as weak internally, meaning it doesn't have the backing of its own people in the way that propaganda certainly wants me to believe. It's all spin, so I never know what to believe, but certainly that's the messaging.
Nice. To your point of Trump is having a problem with his base splitting. Some people are for jumping into this war. Some people are against it. JD Vance tweeted out a message of support I wanted to talk to you about. Look, I'm seeing this from the inside, and I am admittedly biased toward our president and my friend, but there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media, so I wanted to address some things directly on the Iran issue. First, POTUS has been amazingly consistent over 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear program. Over the last few months... Nuclear weapon. Over the last few months, he encouraged his foreign policy team to reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish his goal. And he said repeatedly that this will happen on one of two ways, the easy way or the other way. Second, I've seen a lot of confusion over the issue of civilian nuclear power and uranium enrichment. These are distinct issues. They've been found in violation of their non-proliferation obligations by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is hardly a right-wing organization. It's one thing to want civilian nuclear energy. It's another thing to man sophisticated enrichment capacity, and it's still another to go cling to enrichment while simultaneously violating basic non-proliferation obligations and enriching right to the point of weapons-grade uranium. He may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. That decision ultimately belongs to the president. And of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. Dave Smith has thrown Trump out. He regrets endorsing him, says he shouldn't be impeached. Candace Owens and Ian Carroll did a live earlier today criticizing Trump for making this move and calling him a Zionist and falling prey to Israel yet again. What do you say about this war? Do you think the U.S. should join it?
I can give you principles for dealing with a chaotic world order, but we don't have the information inside to know if I had all the information, would I do what Trump is doing or not? So I will say this. When you have a theocracy who believes that God has told them to kill Israelis, wipe them off the map, to kill Americans, to kill the British. Those are the three that I've heard directly. Obviously translated, so I guess it's entirely possible that I'm being bamboozled, but I hear that from all the translations I've ever seen.
No, but it's death to America, death to Israel, death to UK.
So that, I don't want those people to have nuclear weapons. Full stop, period, end of story, and it definitely seems in our best interest to make that stop. Given that Trump, and again, you're taking someone's word for it, but given that he has tried to broker a deal and legitimately seems willing to talk to anybody, which is one thing that I appreciate about his foreign policy, but they didn't bite. And so if you remember way back, I think before Trump took office, I said, oh God, the thing that makes me nervous about the way that he talks is eventually someone's going to call his bluff. And if it is a bluff, then this whole house of cards falls down, which means he's going to have to back it up. And I will say, Trump, as far as I can tell, Trump doesn't really bluff. He just goes, this is how I'm going to play it. And suicide mission or not, he's going to do it for a little while so that you understand, no, he's serious about that. Now, he might back off very quickly when he sees that something is a bad idea, but he's going to punch you in the mouth. Again, whether it's a terrible fucking idea or not, he's going to throw that punch. And so I look at this and I'm like, everything that I know about Trump says, hey, I tried to broker a deal. You said no, you're getting punched. Now, maybe he goes all the way to bunker buster and destroys their Fordow facility. Maybe he doesn't, but I would be utterly shocked if he didn't throw some punches before he steps back to the negotiating table. That would utterly shock me. So again, do I think that we should be in this? Anybody that's saying death to America and is trying to become nuclear armed, yes, you have to do something. Would it be 1,000 different brands of moronic if we get sucked into another Iraq? Yes, for sure. So it will be interesting to see what other information comes out. But with the information that I have, I would say dropping bunker busters on Fordow, I can get behind. Getting involved in a long-term skirmish between Israel and Iran, not so much.
Yeah, copy. And it's weird because for me, the American tax-paying citizen who goes to church and has a daughter, I'm looking at this, no more wars, we need to be America first, we need to leave it alone. But then the opportunist in me, the entrepreneur in me is one bomb and you could kill that. Like, you got to take that shot, right? You could just put it to bed tomorrow. You never have to worry about this again. Trump will literally sleep peacefully if he can get that facility off the map. Why wouldn't you take it? Like, you have every green light. The international community is basically pointing at it like, go ahead, bro, just do it. We get it. We understand. Israel's boots on the ground, and they already are lighting Tehran up. So Israel is on the offensive. It's not like this is a last ditch effort or anything like that. It seems like the right move to do, but I don't know. Just in general, though, because I'm going to be honest, I've been watching bombs for the last 24 hours trying to play catch up. How do you think people should level set about this moment? Like, is there a historical perspective? Like, what does this actually mean? Should we start being worried? Should I buy a bunch of water jugs? Like, how are you processing this?
In the US, I have such catastrophic concerns for totally different reasons. Mm-hmm. So watch my upcoming deep dive where I go into all the political violence that we see. As of today, I don't see a way to avert civil war. I give a plan that is very much stolen from Ray Dalio, but I don't think we're going to take it. So I think that we've got our own woes coming in big ways. I don't think it's going to be from this. I think you showed me a video that's interesting. I mean, this is like full tin hat, but Anonymous posted a video yesterday, I believe, as of the time of this recording anyway, saying that in 16 days, that there's going to be a false flag attack on American soil.
We have acquired verified information that a major attack is being planned on domestic soil. It will be brutal, it will be visible, and it will be blamed on a foreign faction, one from the Middle East. But that is a lie. The operation is a false flag, orchestrated not by a foreign enemy, but by an elite shadow alliance within a nation that poses as our greatest ally, but instead is a hyper-militarized power with deep influence through sexual blackmail in our intelligence, government, and media sectors. The goal? To drag us into their war, under the guise of retaliation. But the real motive isn't justice. It's control, resources, power.
They don't say it, but it seems obvious that they're talking about a false flag on American soil that will be blamed on Iran, but very much, according to them, won't actually have been Iran, and that it will be done so that we can put our full might behind the Israel-Iranian conflict. My view on history is that governments really do work at cross purposes with their people a lot. And this kind of thing, I can certainly see. I have no reason to believe that this is real. I know nothing about this. Like I said, this is full tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff right now. But what freaks me out is how predictable all of these things are, given the forces of wars are just so economically amazing, Drew.
Aren't wars good for
us? They're good in some ways because one, okay, here I am worried about civil war. If you can rally the country around something like a new 9/11, where it's like, yo, we just got attacked by Iran. Like, we got to be focused on that. Like, we've got to stop bickering. So those kinds of things do work for sure. Wars like that are extremely good for the economy, but in weird ways that end up in the long run being wildly destructive. And so if we go to war, it will be money printing literally right up until we implode. So it would be catastrophic. It would be a mistake of the highest order from a financial standpoint. I'll just tell you that right now. And so people worrying about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, like, you've got to avoid it. You've got to avoid it.
Hold on. Can we even afford this? Because it seems that I thought war would lead to profit or lead to maybe we'll steal some oil or something, but it just seems like all this is going to cost us bodies, debt, and our national future. Maybe we avoid a civil war, but
you can afford anything when the reserve currency is your money for a while. And what we will, if Trump decides that we are getting in this war, we will fund it literally forever. And much like countries go, well, we can't have an election now, Drew. We've got somebody in office. We're in the middle of a war. you'll get a very similar reaction financially. Well, we can't stop spending now, Drew. Like, we're in the middle of a war. And so people will, if they can be made to believe in the enemy, then there is virtually no stopping the print bus. The problem is that you are devaluing everybody's holdings with every dollar that you spend. So it will accelerate the political violence internally. And the one thing I will say is, I don't think people are running the proper calculus on the era that we're living in from an information standpoint. You just can't stop people from complaining, calling it out, saying what it is. So there's just a hyper awareness to things that there didn't used to be. So it will be interesting to see what actually happens, because you're going to have people like me doing deep dive after deep dive explaining why this is financial suicide, how this inevitably leads to the end of empire, the loss of reserve currency status, and that what ends up happening, it's really fascinating. The country will turn on itself. And so you'll print money to a point where you think, well, we've got this external enemy, surely we'll be focused on them. And you will, as long as there's a perceived like imminent threat. But the second the imminent threat goes away, like you break apart. And so, I mean, this is very similar to the UK after World War II. It's like the pound just kept declining and declining and declining. Churchill was voted out of office almost immediately after the war. So the guy literally saves all of Western Europe, and then it's just ousted because everything changes after the war. So I think America is on a one-way path right now to tearing itself apart in the next 10 years. That will only accelerate if we go to war, but there are certain things that it will feel like it will postpone. That's maybe the wrong way to say it. The right way to say it is it will give them a license to print. And because people are so incapable of transcending their emotions, they'll do it. We'll get right back to the show. But first, let's talk about what happens when the Fed makes a move and your portfolio gets crushed. Most investing apps are designed to keep you distracted. They gamify your money with flashy charts and meme stocks. Meanwhile, real economic forces like inflation, tariffs, policy shifts are deciding your actual financial fate. Alio Capital cuts through all of that. This is macro investing for people who want to understand the big picture. Their Altitude AI identifies shifts in inflation, interest rates, and global risk, then adapts your portfolio in real time. Their macro dashboard shows exactly how your portfolio is positioned across inflation, liquidity, growth, and risk. Download their app in the App Store or at Google Play, or text my name, Tom, to 511-511. That's ALLIO Capital, or text Tom to 511-511. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee results. See terms and conditions. Tax fees may apply. This is a paid advertisement for Alio Capital. And now let's get back to the show.
That just took me the opposite way. I thought when you have a war, it's good for the economy.
When you have a war, it's good for oh God. Okay, so
I asked it.
It is on the surface good for the economy because it gives you a reason to print money. And so you're pumping money into the system. When you pump money into the system, you're driving asset prices up. So people that hold assets are going to be like, this is the greatest time ever. Given that that's the elites, given that the elites are the ones that have the influence in Washington, D.C., that for a large part, they control politics. You'll get a ground up revolt every now and then, which is what we saw with Trump. But for the most part, it's the wealthy elites that control narratives and control politics and on, because everybody's going to do whatever they need to do to get money. So from that perspective, once you understand that war gives you the ability to steal from everybody through inflation, so literally poor, middle class, wealthy, everybody gets stolen from, but only asset holders get enriched. And then an even more narrow band of people really get to take advantage of it because they get money before the inflation actually makes its way out into the economy. So imagine if I were going to print $1 trillion, the $1 trillion might take 6 months, a year to be felt in prices. Well, if you're one of the companies that gets advantage because you're Lockheed Martin or whatever, and you get these huge contracts, you've got a year where you just got, let's say $200 million, $500 million, whatever, and you got a year to fucking spend it before prices go up. Mm-hmm. So I'm oversimplifying it, but boy, oh boy, is that exactly how it works.
And then on the other side, one more follow-up. I remember it was in World War II, like we printed money and made war bonds, and that was the way that we like financed it. Like, could something like that happen?
Of course.
Yeah.
So here's how it works. Mm-hmm. So right now, the bond market, not JP Morgan, the guy that works, what's his name?
Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon, thank you. Jamie Dimon came out recently and said, the bond market's gonna crack. God, Drew, you're really making me, I'm convincing myself over here that there really is going to be a false flag to get us into the war. It would be so fucking convenient. Okay, so Jamie Dimon comes on and he says, listen, the bond market's going to crack. What does that mean? It means that the reason they call the Fed the buyer of last resort is because it's inflationary if they buy the debt, but it's not inflationary if all of us that have money go buy the debt. So when your average school teacher is like feeling patriotic and they're like, well, I'm not going to go fight, but I'll buy war bonds, then you get their money, their post-tax dollars, Drew. You get to suck them back into the government. Oh God, it's so evil. So you get people buying the bonds and you don't have to print. And so you'll first gobble up all of that. And then you'll just keep spending literally however much they want. And let's say that we've got, 3, 4 trillion, 5 trillion in debt because it's a wartime economy. You just print whatever you're not able to get from the buying public. And so it is almost certainly true that the bond market is going to crack because people like me who traditionally buy a lot of bonds are sitting back going, our inflation is getting so unhinged, our money printing, our debt is getting so unhinged that it will break. Like mathematically it breaks. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if it breaks in 2 months, 2 years. It's not going to be more than 10 years. Like mathematically, it's not possible. So, but I'm going to back off. Then a bunch of other people are going to back off. And then all of a sudden you've got the Fed buying all of your debt. And so if we're in that position already and Jamie Dimon is warning about it now, there are going to be people eyeing that going, ooh, people are not going to let us print. People are going to squawk. They're going to tell the government no more spending. This is like Doge was reviled now, but you start getting stupid with it and people are really going to say something. And so again, this is just conjecture. This is pure conspiracy. But I see the forces at work that would cause somebody to be like, we're going to need to give people an enemy. Drew, I don't know if people like take the most evil, like central banker, mustache twirling.
I thought you were going to say Hitler, most evil genocider, like, the most evil federal banker.
Because those guys, that's different. And
the most evil monopoly guy.
looking at Hitler is a totally different bag and very fascinating. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying like somebody who you imagine they're a comic book villain because they just want to, they want to be in control politically. They want to kill the enemy so they can take their oil. I mean, just like that, the real, like the way that people imagined Dick Cheney, like just that evil, like Halliburton of it all. Yeah. I doubt that it's actually pure evil. It's something more like, my life is good right now. I don't want this to stop. I'm so inside my bubble that I sort of know that the things that I do are gonna like really negatively impact a lot of other people. But it's like one death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is a statistic. So it just becomes so big that you just think, like my life is dope. For my life to continue, I see this path. It's money printing. I understand how this works. We can maintain political control. And I just have this vague sense that I'm morally right anyway. So I need to maintain control to make sure we're doing the right thing. And I'm not really thinking about all the people that are going to be negatively affected. I just think about the fact that this is going to let me maintain my lifestyle. I really think it's something more like that. It's like the banality of evil becomes the real answer.
And do you think is that a human nature problem?
Yes.
So even before it was kings and emperors, and now it's federal bankers.
Yes, it is.
This seems specific to me that if I have to kill you, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Those rules are a bit simpler. I understand them. Maybe just inflation is too complicated. I'm getting lost in the translation. But this does seem intentional that you can mathematically calculate it. You can we're dealing with numbers. We're dealing with money. We're not just dealing with arbitrary egos or pride or like me and how my sword swings. I've been playing a lot of like Assassin's Creed, so I'm in samurai mode.
I'm into it already.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things of like, you're actively stealing from the generation. Like, Jerome Powell, you have a granddaughter. Like, you don't ever think like, hey, I should lower the rate because...
Drew, I really believe that the vast majority of humanity believes they're right. They don't even know how to question it. They just feel right. And so, okay, I feel right. They are unable to get themselves to change direction when they've never lived through it before. So they've never lived through a country going broke before. So they're freaked. They don't even know to be afraid of that. Like, they hear about it on paper, but they've never lived through it. I think about this a lot. This is why I still live in California, because I keep thinking, I'm not really like gonna try to secede and like become proper communist, right? Because I've never gone through it before. Yeah. If I'd been through this before, because the math says, get the fuck out. But I just can't bring myself. It's so disruptive. The thought of having to convince all of you guys to move with me, or God forbid, if you guys decided you didn't want to, I'd have to rehire. Oh God, my wife does not want to leave. Jesus, that would be a nightmare. My wife actually has friends. They're all located here. If I have an internet connection, I'm fine. But my wife has like real friends. And so you get caught up in the day-to-day of it all. And I really think that spiral of, I trust myself, this feels right, I've never lived through this before, so I can't make the leap from, I get it intellectually on paper, but in reality, I think I can make this continue forever. Period. If you want to go somewhere else, we can. But I'll say one last thing. I won't rat this person out because I like them a lot, but a very famous social influencer during like the 2020 to 2023 period actually said, when talking about the economy, maybe this time it really is different. Maybe the world is so interconnected that we could never have a recession again. And I remember thinking, uh-oh, the second you say that, the second you allow yourself to believe that, like, you are fucked.
Yeah.
But we are so bad at translating like the jarring gong of reality that will slap us in the face. We find it impossible to see it on paper and act as if we've already been hit with it.
Yeah, that's it. It's a fact though. Moving on to Russia, I feel like one thing we haven't talked about in this discussion is kind of like the proxy war element of it all. I can honestly think that for us, it's in the US's best interest for Israel to take out Iran. Maybe it's in China's best interest or Russia's best interest to maybe have Iran be a prominent figure in the Middle East. But we can kind of see why we would support Israel and kind of where that through line is. Do you see a reason why Iran, even there's reports that they're giving peace talks. Do you see anything on Iran's side of
who's giving peace talks?
Like they even asked for like a ceasefire. They were seeking a ceasefire. I seen a tweet that Iran was after this weekend.
It's interesting, man.
Yeah.
I have no information that the general public doesn't have.
Yeah.
My immediate assumption is, if I'm getting bombed, I'm going to say, let's go back to the tables because you can draw it out. Like, listen, you want a secret? God, this is one of those I probably should just keep to myself. But I think to myself routinely, I can talk my way out of anything. And so I want to put myself in a position where I've got an opportunity to like go down the road to see if this is going to be advantageous. And and this is why I tell people with contracts, The thing I care about is what is my out. If I have a good out, bro, I'll go way down in negotiation to find out, like, is there really something here? And I'll just keep going, keep going, as if I'm like totally committed. Because I'm like, right when I have to sign on the dotted line, if I don't have a good out, then I can unwind it. But to not at least, I mean, if I'm getting bombed, to not at least like go down that path and be like, bro, let's talk. That buys me time. Like, first of all, if I actually am close to a nuclear weapon, I want to buy as much time as I can because it is a totally different game. If I know that I'm legitimately a week or a month away from a nuclear bomb, I've got to get you to stop. I've got to say whatever I need to say to get you to not bomb Fordow. So they would almost be dumb not to at least try to play that card.
Very good point. Very good point.
We'll get back to the show in a moment, but first, let's talk about the discipline hack that most people miss. Discipline does not stop at the gym or the boardroom. It continues right to your kitchen. For years, Lisa and I have been ButcherBox subscribers because we refuse to compromise on what we put in our bodies. We get high quality cuts with zero decision fatigue from ButcherBox. We're talking 100% grass-fed beef that melts in your mouth, wild-caught salmon packed with nutrients, and free-range chicken that's never touched antibiotics or hormones. No more compromising on quality, no more last-minute grocery runs where you end up grabbing whatever's convenient. Just open your freezer and you're seconds away from fuel that matches your standards. New users who sign up for ButcherBox get your choice of steak tips, salmon, or chicken breast in every box for an entire year, plus $20 off your first box. Just go to butcherbox.com/impact and use code IMPACT at checkout. Now, let's get back to the show.
Continuing into Russia, Ian Bremmer tweeted over the weekend that Russia is now targeting Ukrainian civilians. This was their deadliest strike of this second iteration of the war over the weekend. 15 people dead, including one American. Drones still flying, missiles still dropping in Russia, as they're also dropping in the Middle East. I remember we talked about Anduril and all the American weapon manufacturers and how like drone warfare is going to take over. We have to be prepared. And then over this weekend, I was just seeing hundreds of drones. Just
feels like in the last like 3 months.
Like immediately it became like everybody has guns to now everybody has drones. And it just, that switch flip. And even with Israel's attack, they used AI to even to get the drones into Iran space and then execute the attack. Like this is no longer the future of, this is what war is now. It's crazy.
War and pornography. Those are the things that advance technology. It's bananas, but it's true. What we're living through right now is really weird for me. And I cannot pinpoint if this is 90% that we just have cameras everywhere now. And so now all of a sudden I can watch missiles landing in Tel Aviv. I can watch a drone detonate in the side of an apartment complex. And it's always been like this. We just now film everything. Or if right now is uniquely dangerous. It feels uniquely dangerous. And I feel like I'm talking myself off a ledge by being like, no, it's just that we have cameras everywhere.
I would say the cameras add to the uniquely dangerous element of it, because I feel like if you see a bunch of images, it's easy to then be radicalized one way or another, or to cement your, for all we know, Iran is in a crazy algorithmic loop and they just be fed all this. Israel is screwing the world over, so now they're mad. I'm being tongue in cheek here, but
I doubt that's the beef.
We
were good, but we didn't like that post you did.
There's definitely people who are commenting right now who are in their own echo chambers and are saying, see, because of these 3 videos that I've watched, this is why Russia's a bad guy. This place is a bad guy. Insert bad guy here. So
yeah, I will say that there's no doubt you and I will unintentionally spread incorrect information from time to time. There's no doubt about that. Not letting us off the hook. We certainly will never do it intentionally. But I find myself having to research everything. When I see something like we both saw the video of the supposed Iranian petting the small nuclear bomb, I was just like, there's no way this is real. And so it took you a bunch of time, but you finally tracked it down to the original video that it was in, and it just gets reposted around. Or people will post a real video, but if it were filmed today, it would mean something dramatically different than if it were filmed, like in the case of one that I was looking at earlier that was filmed 2 years ago. And so it's like, oh my God, there's just it is really hard to parse out what is true. Now, I know when I say that, people are going to be like, see, this is why we need like a ministry of truth. And I'm like, do you motherfuckers not read? Like 1984. But anyway, people clamor for that shit. It's going to be hard though. It's going to be hard. And I would officially, as a PSA, like to ask the technology companies out there, would you please, for the love of God, integrate blockchain or something so that I can know beyond a shadow of a doubt where a video comes from? That would be amazing. I think not only are we going to need that, that is going to happen. There's just no way. There's so much bullshit. All right, here it is. Here is our supposed Iranian. This is so ridiculous.
So then this was the repost of it. This is what an Iranian news media outlet did. This is kind of their Al Jazeera or something like that. They retweeted this. And then Israel's initial one, which
so wait, of course I can't. Who was the first person to post that video?
Israel.
Right. Mm-hmm. Israel posted that. That was in like some longer video. There we go.
Here it is. And they were using it as a warning.
Can we just say Israel? That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Nobody pets their nuclear bomb. The second I saw it, I was like, I'm being trolled right now.
But yeah, it's like you said, I seen the Iranian version first and it said maybe, so I'm like, oh snap, this is about to be his
there's
thing.
No way that Iran is posting somebody petting a nuclear weapon and it says maybe, you never know. I was like what? There's no way these guys do not have that kind of humor. Plus, like, if you say maybe to something like that, everyone goes, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. You don't have that one's absurd. But there's so much stuff. I showed Lisa a video of a giraffe with a fanny pack on, boarding an airplane on its own volition, and she thought it was real. Now, in her defense, she couldn't tell that it was an airplane. It just looked like it was going through like some sort of metal gateway. And I was in hysterics. I'm like, it has a fanny pack on. And she was like, oh yeah, okay, you're right, it does. But it's like when you're just sort of glancing at something.
When you're scrolling,
my God.
Scrolling.
The one that got me, and I remind myself of this all the time, was the tents on the buses.
Oh.
And I was like, wait. I was like, the wind surely would not. And then I was like, hold on, this has got to be AI. But for a second, I really believed it. Like my mental model was like, oh damn, like homeless going hard. AI is going to get us all, Drew.
Sheesh. Well, if AI is not going to get us, it's going to be the FBI, because the FBI and the IRS has joined forces to find and hold accountable the individuals funding the LA riots.
Hello, I'm Bill Asaley, United States Attorney for the Central District of California.
And I'm Akil Davis, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office.
And I'm Tyler Hatcher, the Special Agent in charge of IRS Criminal Investigation here in Los Angeles.
The right to assemble and protest peacefully is protected by law. Unfortunately, we've seen individuals whose intentions are to cause damage and to assault law enforcement. For example, last week we arrested an individual who was charged with conspiracy to commit and aiding and abetting civil disorders. These violent agitators put peaceful demonstrators at risk.
The FBI and our fellow partners will continue to investigate individuals and organizations who are knowingly funding or committing acts of violence against law enforcement, as well as the destruction of property.
We are currently tracing money to determine who is providing funding for these riots. Funding crime doesn't just affect the criminals, it also disrupts entire communities. Each dollar funneled into illegal operations fuels violence, undermines law and order, and perpetuates fear. Make no mistake, we will identify and disrupt financial networks supporting these criminal activities.
Think before you act. The legal consequences for financing or aiding and abetting these crimes are harsh. They include imprisonment and fines.
If you have any information regarding individuals and/or organizations providing financial support.
Sheesh.
There's a lot of levels to address this video on, Drew. Okay, while I really want to start with the guy in the middle's neck routine, because he better be a wrestler or a boxer or something, Drew. Okay, so the LA riots, as teased out from the protests, I think that's an important thing to break apart. America is tearing itself apart. That is just facts. Like when I was writing the deep dive and you start listing out all the things that have happened just in the last 5 years, it's absurd. It sounds like you're talking about a third world country. It's crazy. Political assassinations. That's the one that always like gets me. But like riot on the Capitol, political assassinations, attempted assassination of the president, people openly calling for the assassination of Trump, like literally on their X account, like not trying to hide. The riots, the protests, the Tesla dealers. Jesus, man. I didn't even include that one. So when I was watching the LA riots, I was just like, man, we've really gone mad. If you actually want to affect change, you've got to do it peacefully. I mean, that's just like the history books say. So when I see the violence, this is people who are so in their feels, or they're being orchestrated. And I don't know which is worse. They're both fucking horrific in terms of their outcomes. But you've got people orchestrating the people who feel some kind of way emotionally, is probably the chain of events. And so it's like, you're going to have to track that down. Okay. You have to put a stop to that. Otherwise, it's just going to escalate. People will do as much as they can, just like a kid. They're going to test the boundaries. And if they get away with riots at that level, then they're going to push and push and push. And that's how you get domestic terrorism. Okay. The next layer is we are militarizing our police force. Like, we're sending Marines in, and I think rightly so, but this is horrible. This is the wrong direction. The thing I think for myself is, listen, I have wild biases. I have a value system that tells me things ought to be this way, that way, whatever. But when I look at the future that I want, I force myself to find my way to the middle. And what I mean by that is not that I'm changing my beliefs. I force myself to say, I'm not right. My values aren't right. My values are just mine. And so I've got to understand that there are other people and they feel different. And I might look at them and have the impulse to laugh and be like, these people are literal clowns. What the fuck? But that's not going to get us where I want to go. And so just as I would hope they would extend an olive branch to me rather than yelling and screaming at me because they don't like the things that I believe, I need to do the same for them. And both sides seem desperate to lock the other side up. And there's something, you can't let crimes go unpoliced. I get it, but you've got to have shock absorbers. You've got to, when you're dealing with political actors, for instance, you've just got to give them an additional layer of like, okay, fine. Like, I'm going to put up with a bit more from you than I might put up with from somebody else because like, I don't want to find myself gleeful that I get to arrest my opponents. Like, if you can't see, that flips on you. The second you're not in power, they will do the same to you. And then it's like, the people that are in this country, Drew, are the people that are going to be in the country in the future. So if right now you think these are all fucking idiots, what are you saying? Like, for the next 60 years that you're going to hate a huge swath of the country? Like, that's full retard. You've got to find a way. I mean, this is like, I'm speaking to a Christian here. This is like some straight up Jesus shit. It's like, turn the other cheek, extend an olive branch. Like, you've got to find a way to bring people together. You've got to find a way to pull yourself to the middle. You've got to find a way to have compassion for other people that do not see the world the way that you see the world. Like, if people cannot see that the polarization is yanking us apart like faster and faster every day, that just freaks me out. And because I'm so hyper aware of the economic forces that push us in this direction, and the odds of those letting up anytime soon are basically zero. If we want to get on the other side of this without a whole lot of bloodshed, we've got to find a way to, instead of being like, we're going to militarize everything, we're going to find you, we're going to hunt you down. You can't let people get away with stuff. You have to put borders. But like, do you have to make this video where you get the three guys to stand like this and you tell them to put your hands in the exact same thing? It's like, I get it, man, but they're trying to like send a message. They don't have somebody that's like, I mean, I hate to beat this fucking drum, but Nelson Mandela was like the right guy for the time. And to come out and be talking about unity, and listen, I don't know how much of it is propaganda. I get that. But the movie Invictus about him going to the rugby team and being like, basically, I need you guys to win because we need something that unifies the country. It's like, give me some of that shit. You know what I mean? Like, if we're not going to get it from our leaders, it's got to come from each of us. So here it is. To people that do not think the way that I think, word, I love it. In fact, one of the things that I love about you and I is we don't see everything the same. But I have tremendous respect for you. I'm glad that I get to be made sharper because you disagree with a lot of the things that I think. So anyway, man, I really hope people can see, even if it's not a game being orchestrated by some comic book villain just off camera, we are being pulled apart. And it just takes each of us to try to force ourselves back to the middle, to understand not everybody's going to see things the way that we see things, to always fight ethically. Because listen, I want to convince people. I want to convince people my way is right because I believe my way is right. I just have a healthy distrust for myself, enough that I'm like, I'm not going to browbeat people into my position. We'll get back to the show in a second, but first, let's talk about what's happening out there. Business is chaos right now. Trade wars, supply chain disasters, cash flow problems. If you can't adapt fast, you are finished. Complete visibility into everything is your key to survival, and that's exactly what NetSuite by Oracle delivers, and it's why over 41,000 businesses depend on it. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP because it brings everything together in one place. Your accounting, your finances, your inventory, your HR, all of it connected. The AI in NetSuite handles all the repetitive tasks automatically so your team can focus on what actually moves the needle. NetSuite shows you exactly what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to fix it fast. If your revenue is at least 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/theory. Again, that's netsuite.com/theory. And now let's get back to the show.
Happy. That was well said. And I have a story for you over the weekend that you would love. I brought up an Eat the Babies reference. My nephew, he's 25. He just turned 25. We were walking downtown San Francisco, kind of seeing the remnants of the protest. Super chill. I didn't see a rock. I didn't see like nothing. We were on our way to get food. Everybody else was in the hotel. They got married at like the iconic City Hall. Long story short, we were downtown San Fran the whole weekend. As we were walking past, he was like, you know what, Drew? If we just took out like 5 people, we'll be fine. I was like, that's how it always starts. You take out 5, and I said exactly what you told me. Then it's 10. Then it's just 13 million and a half. That's it. After the half, we're done. So, and then he started laughing like, well, yeah, that is true. I was like, yeah, because 5 turns into 10, turns into 50, turns into 100, so that's and he kind of seen that. I was like, oh, well, yeah, that is a good point. Well, but still, we need to. You're right. The community is cooked. We need to go. And we were actively debating ideas because I'm never going to get a house, the economy. And he went to school, got a good job. Like he checked all the boxes and he's still priced out.
Yeah.
And and so talking to him, and I kind of broke it down from that perspective. He was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, we need to kind of switch our position now. Maybe we need to do more grassroots and maybe we need to do some education. And I was like, I like that the conversation shifted from if we killed this person, we'll be happy to we need to do these things to build it up.
Word.
And I think just like you said, there has to come a time where Trump, AOC, Bernie, the FBI, Steve Bannon, your favorite podcaster, like there's going to be a time where us as people have to say how I treat the person who I live with, who I live next to, like how I treat that person is going to matter. And that needs to get precedence again. Like we need to start like I wasn't out there protesting this weekend, but respect for them that you were out there for 8 hours a day holding a sign. Like salute to you. You know what I mean? And it's as long as you weren't, and even with this video, I'm not mad at this video. If people are getting funded, find the money, end the money. Like I'm 100% okay with this investigation. But I also know it's going to take more than the FBI threatening us. It's going to take more than Trump tweets. It's going to take more than the Democratic nominee of 2028 to just flip a switch and now we're unity again. It's going to take us talking to each other, talking to the people we don't want to disagree with. And once we actually start having those conversations, you realize the 3-generation gap we think we really have is really like, oh, you just think we shouldn't kill people? Oh, I don't think that either. Cool. Now we're friends. You know what I mean? Like political conversations can end that fast if you just talk to people. So,
and my real hope is, and the reason that I let you chain me to my laptop writing these deep dives, and listen, if they work, this was Drew's idea, man. I put this shit off forever. But the reason that I spend the time writing them is I really hope that if people understand the mechanisms by which this stuff happens, that then it's the same impulse that I have to convince people that they're having a biological experience. Like even if God made it such that you're having a biological experience, fine, but you are having a biological experience. That helps me a lot. That's the reason that I was able to be like, oh, I have these really strong emotions, but I don't have to trust them, or I don't have to invest in them. I don't have to fan the flames. I can actually de-escalate myself even when I think I'm right, even when I think I have a reason to be mad. I'm like, because this all started with my wife. We would fight on a Saturday. It was the only day that I didn't work. And I'd spend all day mad at her. And I would legitimately be like, but I have a right to be mad. What she did is upsetting in the cold light of day. She agrees she shouldn't have done it. It really was upsetting. And so, of course, I'm going to be upset. And then I was like, have you ever once spent hours being mad and then gone, oh, that was a good use of time? Literally not once.
Never.
And so I was like, oh, wait a second. Then why don't I break that loop? And that made me realize, oh, I can't trust my emotions, because meaning they don't yield the outcome, my stated outcome. Like, I want to have a lovely Saturday with my wife, who I love, who is the most fun person for me ever to be around. And yet I'm sacrificing all that time because I get this momentary emotion that carries me forward. And so getting people to understand that there are mechanisms to all this, that once you understand the mechanisms, you can step outside of it. But when you don't realize that there are mechanisms, that the system, billionaires aren't trying to fuck you. The system creates billionaires because of the way that money printing and debt works, how it feeds into asset prices and blah, blah, blah. And listen, the honest answer is, well, most people are never going to become billionaires, because that really, I mean, that's like, you've got to just make one big fucking concentrated bet, either by building a company or by betting on a company. And don't advise people to do that, because it's a sure way to go broke. But people really can get wealthy if they understand, oh, that's how the system works. Oh, okay, got it. So the only way I'm ever going to be able to afford a house, blah, 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 whatever, is I have to find a place to put my money that outpaces inflation. Cool. It's not going to be easy. And I wish you were more upset that this was a system that you were handed, because it's fucking terrible and it doesn't have to be this way. But at least then they'd be like, oh, this is mechanistic. Got it. But right now, everybody goes, oh, mustache twirling villain, they're evil. And just like earlier in the episode, I was like, oh my God, I can literally talk myself into seeing that villain. But the reality is probably more the banality of evil take, where it's just like people have day-to-day incentives and they just move that ball a little bit forward and a little bit forward and a little bit forward. And given the incentive structure, we end up in fucking crazy moments like we're in now, where everybody's bombing everybody else. Nobody even really exactly knows why. But it's all mechanistic.
Crazy. We shall see. We shall see. In crypto news, the Senate passed the Genius stablecoin bill, giving crypto industry the first major legislative win. This is the most crypto crazy campaign Senate that we ever had. I think the crypto industry... Pro-crypto, yeah. The crypto industry spent $250 million lobbying leading up to this election cycle. So crypto has been waiting for this bill. What the Genius Act does, it establishes the first federal framework for dollar-pegged stablecoins, granting sweeping authority to the Department of Treasury and opening the doors to banks, fintechs, and retailers. Industry giants like Amazon and Walmart are reportedly already moving toward a stablecoin-style offering as payment networks brace for disruption. Shopify tweeted that they're possibly going to accept crypto through Shopify on their online platform. So this seems like a win. There's one thing I do think that's a bit interesting. The Senate bill gives the power to the Department of Treasury. The House has a similar bill. I think it's called the Stable Act, but theirs is run through the Fed. Exactly. So I wanted to kind of just tease that out. Like, one, stablecoin, just as it is right now, if it goes through the Treasury, if it's just dollar-backed stablecoins, how do you feel about it? And then part two, is there any concern with the House kind of flirting with the Fed in this bill?
Bro, if you're that, okay, I haven't looked. Maybe I'll love it. However, the Fed and stablecoins to me says CBDC.
That's what I was thinking.
When you hear CBDC, think 1984, total control of your life. You will not, if they don't like the brand of milk you want to buy, they will stop you from buying it. Dude, I'm not kidding. That is not hyperbole. I'm saying it will give them complete and total control over your financial life. It is a disaster of such epic proportions. People cannot allow that to happen. CBDCs are death. Avoid at all costs. So stablecoins, on the other hand, is brilliant. As long as, and I have not looked at this bill, so I don't know, maybe it's terrible, But a CBDC that is backed 1-for-1 with a dollar, yay. First of all, it will give a huge push into bonds, government bonds. Now, I'm conflicted around that. I want the US government to be stable though. So, hey, we have the system we have. Given that we have a terrible fucking system, at least keep this terrible fucking system stable, because the only thing worse than a terrible system is an unstable, terrible system. So for that reason, I'll say, yay, that's great, phenomenal. It helps feed dollar hegemony around the world, helps keep us a reserve currency, which again, in the current system that we have, if somebody's got to be the reserve currency, you want it to be you. So cool. It needs to be 1-for-1. If it's not 1-for-1, then you get shenanigans. We already have fractional reserve banking. I do not, Drew, God damn it. I do not want my money where, let's say I left a couple grand in there because I'm like, you never know when you might need to transfer stuff. And then overnight that coin fails and poof, it's just all gone. Sheesh. Hell no. But if they are regulated to hold 1-for-1. So if I give you $1,000, you have in your coin, whatever your coin is, then you have $1,000 in reserve. So when I say, give me back my $1,000, then I can get my $1,000 back no matter what. Then, yay, I'm here for that. That will be amazing. And people don't understand how much easier this is gonna be to buy things. But by the way, the transaction systems that we all use, that really will be disrupted. Yeah. So all of these guys are going to become their own credit cards, essentially.
That's exactly where they're going through. Because with the crypto really, transactions that happened last year, it overshadowed Visa, MasterCard, all of them together.
Finally, you will have competition and people will stop charging you obscene interest rates. Drew, this could really be good for people because credit card interest rates are predatory. Predatory. And so if you can start getting that down for people that have really good credit, I mean, listen, you're going to pay for it if you've got bad credit. But if you've got good credit, and it's good credit with that, presumably that's how they'll do it. Like, hey, you've always paid your bills at Amazon. And so at Amazon, you can get cheap credit. Don't fuck up your Amazon credit. But I think that's going to be good for consumers because everybody is going to be like, now, if I'm a new startup, I can do things where I make it cheaper for you to come and use my coin. And as long as it's 1-for-1 backed, it doesn't matter that I'm the new guy. And so now somebody that's struggling because they have a bad rating with Amazon, they've got a new opportunity to start fresh here. Anyway, I'm certainly prognosticating. I don't know that's how it's going to be, but I think this is really, really strong, and it helps diminish the impact of the Fed on you, because there will be somebody who creates a non-inflationary coin. And so, I mean, this will be interesting. I'm really, I'm now reaching out into the ether because I don't know that the government will allow this. And so there might be restrictions that stop this from happening. But this is what makes Bitcoin so potent, is that it's an uninflatable asset. And so if we had something similar where it's like, oh, damn, like you could store your money in V-Bucks, and V-Bucks is uninflatable and it's backed 1-for-1. I just have to think through, given that it's backed by USD and that's hyperinflatable, what does that mean? I have to think about that. But anyway, I think some pretty unique things will come out of this.
Yeah, I feel like the 1-for-1, they say it's full reserve backing, monthly audits, and anti-money laundering compliance. So they are saying that the Genius Act is 1-for-1. But again, I want to be clear that this is the Senate bill, and it passed 68-30, which means some Democrats were even in favor of it, that there is a House version of it that, again, uses the Fed. So I just want to make sure that when it actually gets to the real bill that is implemented to the American people, we make sure that that Fed piece doesn't get into it. There is one interesting thing, though. With cryptocurrency, we always think about it as a store of wealth. I have my Bitcoin. I'll hold it for a couple of years. It'll be worth $1 billion per Bitcoin. But this might jumpstart the transaction side of it, the blockchain side of it, and kind of the other technologies that people are excited about with crypto. So to me, it seems like it's net going in the right direction, right?
There's no doubt. And shout out to David Sachs, AI and CryptoZar. Listened to him for a long time on the All In podcast before he got involved in politics, and certainly seems to have his head screwed on straight when it comes to innovation, the need to see this technology move forward, to want to make America the place of innovation, and to trust that if you're not trying to alienate the entire industry, you can get sensible regulation in here and really get some incredible new things happening in credit, in I hesitate to say money, but like in the fintech space. And so I'm very excited to see what happens.
Oh, we got a new sequel in development. Shout out to the Goonies.
Indeed. I checked it. This seems to be real.
And Steven Spielberg's doing it too. Nice.
Produced, not directed, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be interested to see. Listen, as somebody who grew up on the Goonies, I remember seeing the Goonies in theaters. I hope they don't mess it up, but at least it's a sequel and it's not a reboot.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is these are normally terrible. And even though I know they're normally terrible, it is fun to sort of have this stirred back up in the public consciousness to, you know, be able to fantasize about it being good for a year or so before you get smacked in the face with
a bad trailer.
with something terrible. But yeah, I'm excited for this. And while it is a bad sign that Hollywood can no longer create new things, because I'm old enough to have this huge treasure trove of things I would love to see get rebooted. I'm excited for this. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Apparently Sinners was the highest grossing original movie in the last like
crazy.
5 years. And I want to say it did like 300 million, which I mean, great. It was awesome. But like Avatar did $1 billion original, you know what I mean? So you're used to these big blockbuster starting franchises being launched and we're just not there anymore.
Well, I'll say I take a slightly more optimistic read on Sinners. I feel about Sinners the way that I felt about The Matrix, where it wasn't, I mean, it was big enough financially, did like 150 mil, I want to say. It was big enough, obviously, that it had more made, but wasn't, I don't think it was even in the top 3 of that year. Someone will have to fact check me on that. But I remember the time being like, okay, like this was a hit. People were into it, but it was so culturally important that it just ended up growing and growing and growing over time. So my hope is that you see movies like that go on to become a franchise and that the franchise becomes more important over time. And because that was a creator-led deal, it'll be very interesting to see if this becomes part of the transition, because as AI takes over, the studios aren't going to have any power. They're going to basically become real estate companies. Yeah. It's a whole nother thing. But if this works, and they, I think, get the IP back in like 25 years, you'll start seeing those time frames shorten. And so I think ultimately, given what is happening with AI, ultimately the creators are just going to own their stuff outright, plain and simple. Someone will be in aggregating, and maybe it'll just be YouTube, but someone will aggregate the stuff, or Netflix will probably do the same, where creators will just submit and be like, hey, I'm going to put it up. It's going to be ad revenue sharing or whatever. And that means if you're talented, no longer will this stuff be stripped away from you. Yeah. And as a YouTube creator, I will say that I love that. In fact, I often don't even think about the fact, dude, I make this show exactly the way I want to make this show. Sometimes with total disregard for whether we're going to get demonetized or whatever. I just don't give a fuck. It's like, I want to make the show I want to make. And that's a rad feeling, given that the stuff we're doing in gaming, the stuff we're doing in traditional film is like, you're constantly trying to convince somebody because it's so expensive.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Really good point. Yeah, sure. I can't tell if it's Cowboy Bebop or Lazarus, because I feel like the main characters both have similar architects. I'm leaning toward Cowboy Bebop.
The same guy.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, the artist or
the creator.
Creator. Because I was looking, I was like, wait, that's but
this is so iconically one of them that you're losing a lot of animation.
No, it's Cowboy Bebop, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Because I was like 90% sure, but I was like, wait, that did just release. Is it? And I know you talked about you like Lazarus. I couldn't get into it. I do,
but not nearly as much as Cowboy Bebop. And that's the really unfair part. And the reason that this pains me to say is that the things you create are always going to be perceived in terms of what's happening when you release it. And so when Cowboy Bebop came out, it was far more innovative than Lazarus is compared to today. So like if you look at To Be Hero X, that's innovative. That is awesome. Coming out of China, phenomenal. You know, my like radar is always set like is China encroaching, but credit where credit's due. And To Be Hero X is phenomenal. And watching To Be Hero X back to back with Cowboy Bebop is tough because, with Lazarus is tough because it's like, Lazarus doesn't have that like visual sense of like breaking ground. And so that's tough because he clearly is one of the great creators of anime ever. And there's a quote that haunts me, and that is, "Genius is a young man's game." And there's just something about your youth where you're of the culture. You're not commenting on it yet. You're of it. And being of the culture, you're able to say something that will just penetrate. Like Kurt Cobain was of the culture. And now sort of the iconic version and the way that people talk about him is very different than, this was just a guy who's fucked up on drugs, wildly insecure, sensitive but angry at the same time. And he just captured that 90s moment of all of that, like anxiety before it was cool, channeled into this rage-filled music. It was like really interesting. And when you get those sparks of somebody who's of the culture, they're always young. This is why they always die at 27. Like there's just something about, you're building it from the time you're like 14, you come into your own at like 19 to 21, you sort of get into the game, you really pop off at 23, 24, and then you burn out. It's so weird. It's so weird because they're of the culture and they don't have the perspective. And we'll see, because I in terms of what I will end up producing over the entire course of my life, I secretly want to believe that the thing that certainly makes me different, unfortunately I can't say better, but the thing that makes me different is I'm so hyper aware of myself that the things that I create are commentaries on myself, which is interesting. I'm never lost in it. I'm always commenting on it. But that means I'm not going to self-destruct. So this is part of the reason that at 49, I'm able to keep building something and be on however many companies I've started at this point, and still be hungry and still want to push forward, because I gave up on being a misunderstood genius a very long time ago. But it's a trade-off. The sort of burn bright and do something that'll be remembered in the annals of history, probably not my lot. That really is a young man's game.
I hear you. All right, that's all I got.
There it is. All right, everybody, if you're not already, make sure you join us for our lives Wednesday and Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. LA immigration riots kicked off and were going strong for days. Trump says it would be a good idea to arrest Newsom. Newsom tells him to come and do it already. Kash Patel says there's no videos of Epstein's victims. Penn Bondi, however, says there's tens of thousands of them.